what I noticed, and what it can and can't do. Putting castor oil in your belly button sounds ridiculous, which is exactly why I tested it. I did it every night for 3 weeks, and I did notice something, not a miracle, but a real shift in how my body settled down at night. In this video, I'll show you my exact routine, what people claim it's for, what actually makes sense physiologically, and how to do it safely without falling for hype. Chapter 1. I tested it. Anyway. Putting castor oil in your belly button sounds strange, almost too strange to take seriously. I was skeptical from the beginning, not because castor oil itself is unfamiliar to me, it has been used externally for generations, but because the idea of focusing specifically on the belly button feels, at first glance, a bit internet-driven. Still, I kept seeing the same ritual pop up, people describing it as calming, others saying it became part of their evening routine. No dramatic promises, just quiet, repetitive use. That's usually where things get interesting. So instead of dismissing it, I decided to test it myself. I didn't do it once. I didn't try it for a weekend. I committed to a simple routine over several weeks. Every evening, shortly before going to bed, I applied a small amount of castor oil directly into the belly button. Just a few drops. No massage techniques, no elaborate setup. I wanted the test to be as realistic and low-key as possible, something people could actually do without turning it into a production. I wasn't looking for a miracle. I wasn't expecting dramatic changes. What I wanted to observe was subtler, how my body reacted over time, whether anything shifted, whether the ritual itself changed how I wound down in the evening. And that's where the story really begins, because what I noticed wasn't loud or spectacular, but it was consistent enough that I started paying attention. Chapter 2. Why the belly button feels so reactive. The belly button isn't just a leftover mark from birth. It's a surprisingly sensitive area of the body, and most people underestimate how strongly it reacts to touch, warmth, and focused attention. Even without any oil involved, gentle contact around the navel can trigger noticeable sensations, sometimes calming, sometimes uncomfortable, sometimes simply unfamiliar. One reason for this lies in what surrounds the area. The skin around the belly button is thin, richly supplied with nerves, and closely connected to deeper tissue layers. Many people instinctively tense their abdomen under stress, often without realizing it. The belly becomes a kind of holding zone, tight, guarded, rarely relaxed. When that area is touched slowly and intentionally, the body often responds immediately. Breathing changes, muscles soften, the nervous system shifts gears. This isn't mystical, and it doesn't require special belief. It's a basic physical response to gentle sensory input in a highly reactive zone. That's why rituals centered around the belly button show up again and again in different cultures. Not as medical treatments, but as calming practices. The focus itself matters. The stillness matters. The signal to the body is simple. It's safe to slow down. Understanding this context is important. Whatever people experience with castor oil in the area doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in a place that's already wired to respond, especially when the body is finally given permission to relax. Chapter 3. Why castor oil, of all oils? Castor oil is very different from most oils people are familiar with. It's thick, heavy, and slow-moving. It doesn't absorb quickly, and it doesn't disappear into the skin within seconds. That alone sets it apart, and it's exactly why it has traditionally been used for external applications rather than cosmetic care. When applied to the skin, castor oil tends to stay where it's placed. It forms a dense, almost protective layer that creates a sense of warmth and containment. Many people describe it as grounding rather than refreshing. Not uplifting, not stimulating, but steady and calming. This quality is one reason castor oil has long been used in wraps and packs, often combined with heat and rest. Unlike lighter oils that are chosen for scent or quick absorption, castor oil is usually selected for quiet, slow rituals. It invites stillness. It encourages you to pause rather than move on. In that sense, the oil itself becomes part of the signal to the body. Nothing needs to happen quickly here. That's why castor oil fits naturally into practices focused on relaxation and winding down. Not because it's magical, but because its physical properties support a slower rhythm. When people use it in the belly button, the oil doesn't rush away. It stays present, just like the attention placed on that area. And that combination, texture, warmth, and intentional stillness, is what makes castor oil such a consistent choice in these rituals. Chapter 4. What people use this ritual for. People don't usually turn to the belly button castor oil ritual for dramatic reasons. It's rarely about fixing something specific. Instead, it's often used as a response to a general sense of tension, physical, mental, or emotional. Many describe it as a way to settle the body rather than change it. One common reason is simple evening relaxation. The ritual becomes part of winding down, similar to dimming lights or turning off screens. The combination of oil, gentle touch, and stillness signals that the day is over. For some, this shift alone feels meaningful. Others use it when their abdomen feels tight or restless, not as a treatment, but as a way to soften that area and bring awareness back to the body. The focus isn't on forcing movement or relief, but on creating a sense of ease where tension often accumulates unnoticed. Sleep routines come up frequently as well. Many people report that adding this ritual before bed helps them transition into rest more smoothly. Again, not as a sleep aid, but as a calming cue. A consistent pattern the body begins to recognize. Some also connect the practice with warmth-based traditions, such as castor oil packs. In that context, the belly button application is seen as a simplified version of a longer, more involved ritual. Across all these uses, one theme repeats. It's less about results, and more about creating space for the body to slow down. Chapter 5. The castor oil pack as an extension. For those who want to take the ritual a step further, castor oil packs are often mentioned as an extension rather than a replacement. The idea isn't to use more oil, but to give the body more time and warmth. A castor oil pack usually involves soaking a piece of cloth with oil, placing it on the abdomen, and covering it to keep the area warm. The setup is slower and more deliberate, which is why many people reserve it for evenings when they have time to rest. Unlike the belly button application, which fits easily into a daily routine, a pack turns the practice into a dedicated pause. What matters here is not intensity, but duration. The longer contact, combined with warmth, encourages stillness and body awareness. Many people describe the experience as deeply calming rather than active. In this context, the belly button ritual can be seen as a simplified version, easier to integrate, less effort, but based on the same principle: oil, warmth, and uninterrupted rest. Chapter 6. What I personally noticed. What stood out to me most wasn't a sudden change or a clear result, but a gradual shift in how my body felt, especially in the evening. The ritual didn't create a dramatic effect. Instead, it subtly changed the transition between activity and rest. Over time, my abdominal area felt less tense, less guarded. I became more aware of how much stress I usually carry there without noticing. Applying the oil and taking a few quiet minutes afterward created a pause that I hadn't been giving myself before. That pause seemed to ripple outward. Breathing slowed. The urge to stay mentally alert faded more easily. What surprised me was how consistent this effect felt when the ritual was repeated. It wasn't about the oil alone, but about the combination of touch, stillness, and routine. For me, it became less of an experiment and more of a small act of self-care, a way to signal that the day was winding down. Nothing spectacular, just a noticeable sense of settling. Chapter 7. Important Safety Notes. As simple as this ritual is, there are a few important points to keep in mind. Castor oil is meant for external use only in this context. It should never be ingested as part of this practice. A small amount is more than enough, a few drops are sufficient, and using more doesn't increase the effect. Before trying it for the first time, it's always a good idea to do a small patch test on the skin to check for sensitivity or irritation. Castor oil is thick and heavy, and not every skin type reacts the same way. If irritation occurs, the application should be stopped. This ritual is not intended as a medical treatment and doesn't replace professional care. Anyone who is pregnant, dealing with unexplained abdominal pain, acute inflammation, or chronic medical conditions should consult a healthcare professional before trying it. Above all, this practice works best when approached gently. It's about listening to the body, not pushing it, and stopping if something doesn't feel right. Final thoughts. Using castor oil in the belly button isn't about quick results or dramatic effects. It's a simple ritual centered on slowing down, creating warmth, and paying attention to the body. For some, it becomes a calming evening routine. For others, it's simply a moment of stillness in a busy day. It's not a cure or a treatment, just a gentle practice that invites the body to settle and rest